I'm so excited to be here. I never thought I would be doing this. Some of you, you know that I have been very against technology, and I never thought that this would be happening, but here I am. I've had some negative beliefs about seeing what technology has done to our culture, and yet now it's like a miracle because we want to be connected in it. I've been more connected in the last 2 weeks in my house than I was in my busy life, because I was out of the house every day doing something with a lot of people, doing a lot of volunteering and exercising, and I'm more connected now. So I'm very happy to be connecting with people that I really feel close to in my heart. And I have gotten so many emails since Saturday from people, whether they're coming in tonight or not, but they were just, it was so exciting to hear from people I hadn't heard from for years that they were still doing some of the tools. And I got very excited because I still am doing the tools for myself. And you know, when an event or a person triggers me, I always know that it's time for me to do some work on myself. And after I go into my body and find out what's really going on in me, I always end up feeling more joy in my life and more of a life force. And I think that's what you've heard me say this, that it keeps me young. So I'm so excited to hear from so many people that they're still using the tools. And people have been telling me some wonderful stories about how using SAT either in a group or by themselves has changed their life. And that brings me back to what Dick used to say, is that SAT, self-acceptance training, when we do it on ourselves, is like dropping a pebble into a pond, and the ripples go out to other people that we are in contact with because we change, and then it has an effect on other people and on other people. We don't know where the ripples go. So very wonderful to know that. And then people who've been in my professional training groups, those ripples are going out into whoever you're teaching, whether you're a teacher or a therapist or an artist or an actress, wherever you are dropping pebbles and creating more life force in the people in yourself and in other people that you're around. Hi, Amy. Oh. So, yes. So I'm very excited to be doing this and just to be connecting with people I haven't seen for years. So tonight I want to talk a little bit before we meditate about meditation, the way I do it. And I know that some of you have very good practices, and there are so many ways to meditate. So whatever way you meditate, if it's good for you, you don't have to even listen to my little talk here on the way I meditate. But I'd like to share with you some of the tips that I've learned along the way, because it's always changing for me. And I think there are three things in the way I do meditation and the way I've taught it in classes for several years now. And that is with the breath and with the body. That when you go into the body, you go into who we are in this outer world and into the inner world of who we are, consciousness. So there's three things about that. One is that I like to inhale into the heart chakra and actually feel my chest expanding, because you know the heart chakra is connected to the hands, and you might feel, when you do it this way, you might feel your hands either getting warm or tingling, because as you know, maybe some of you, that the hands are the work organ of the heart chakra. So I like to inhale into the heart chakra and then exhale into the pineal gland, which is behind the third eye. And I learned this just recently in the last 6 months studying Dr. Joe Dispenza. If some of you have been studying him, I know some of you have. And he's been studying the brain for years and claims, which I believe, that the pineal gland is the part of the brain that is closely connected to the unconscious, which, as you know, most of us live, I think it's 96% of the time out of our unconscious. So when we are creating all the time with our unconscious or conscious minds. And so I like to exhale into that pineal gland. And I've had some amazing experiences where I've actually felt my brain vibrating. That may not happen to you. I'm just a little weird that way. I get all these experiences. But, and then the other thing, so there's 3 things: breathing into the heart, inhaling, exhaling into the pineal gland, and staying at the end of the breath, which is, I think, the most important part. Because as I've said so many times, at the end of the breath is the secret of the sages. Many people teach meditation. They never mention that it's important to stay just a little bit at the end of the breath. Some of you will only be able to stay for a second or two, to hold it out after all the breath is out. And that will take you into a deeper trance state, which is meditation. And you might find that if you practice this, you'll be able to stay longer and longer and longer at the end of the breath. And some of the great beings can stay there for a long time. And you'll go deeper and deeper and deeper into trance or into meditation, into consciousness. And so that's what you can experiment with during the meditation if you choose. But like I said, if you have another way that works better for you, do that. The other thing I want to say about meditation is that many, many people, someone's not able to make it. Many people tell me that, oh, I can't meditate my mind. I just get distracted. My mind goes off into blah, blah land. Well, that is common. There are very few people who never have a thought during meditation. And I want to remind you that we always have a choice to just kind of follow those thoughts or to bring ourselves back to the breath. And also, I want to remind you, those of you who've done professional workshops with me where I've been teaching hypnosis, that the hypnotist is always taking you down, and then they'll give you something to distract you, and you'll come up a little bit and you'll go down again, and then another distraction, you'll come up a little bit and you'll go deeper. So that happens in hypnosis, which is a trance state, and it also happens in meditation. So when you have a thought, you get distracted and you bring yourself back, you'll find yourself going deeper. And you'll have another thought, you bring yourself back, you'll find yourself going deeper into that trance state. I once had a cat who, when I could sit in half lotus, which I cannot do anymore, but she would sit on my lap while I was meditating. And every time I would have a thought or something, she'd start purring. When I'd go back to my breath, she would stop purring. So she was going into trance along with me. And she really taught me about how important it is to make that choice to come back, to leave the thought and come back. Recently, one of my trainees who was visiting me from Chicago and going to all these different meditation centers told me that one place that he went to taught him that when he had a thought, to wrap it in love and put it back in his heart. That's a nice thing to do too. So always remember that you have a choice around what you're doing in your meditation. And each time you go, if you really create a practice, you'll find that you're going into some wonderful experiences. The meditation tonight, I'm going to be using some Sanskrit chants. I actually prefer to meditate in silence, but I've found that people who don't have a strong practice, or even some people who do, prefer listening to a chant. And Sanskrit or Gregorian chant, where you do not really know what the words mean, it will take you deeper, because words take you back into your mind, where if you don't know what the Sanskrit is talking about, you get more in touch with the vibration, because Sanskrit was, remember, discovered by yogis who were meditating, and they'd hear these sounds, and they were really the sounds of the energy going through their body, and they created Sanskrit sounds before they created it into a language. So anyway, tonight I'm going to be using some chants for about 15 minutes, and that's what we're about to do now. I'm also going to use my bowl to start, and then Jason, who I want to thank over and over and over again, who's my wonderful business assistant, who is also the tech person that has made this possible. He has done so much for me. I cannot never thank him enough, but thank you, Jason. And he's going to put on the Sanskrit chants after I gong this bowl. Also, some people like the sound of bowls, and there is an app that I sometimes use on my phone called, oh, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but it's an app where it just is a meditation healing bowl that rings again and again and again. Maybe it'll come back to me later. So here we go, and I will see you in 15 minutes. slowly bring yourself back. It's always hard for me to come back from that state. And Jason, I'm wondering if we could open it up to the gallery in case there's comments or questions at this point on meditation before I go into anxiety.
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. So I think anyone can unmute themselves if they want to say something. There is an option to raise your hand. It might be hard to see how that's done in the program.
But I'm not seeing the gallery anymore. I'm just seeing me again.
Yeah, you might have to tap it and press that button to go back to gallery mode.
Oh, there.
Yeah.
I love the music.
Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, very beautiful. I would love to know what it was. You can send an email later, but I just wanted to say I thought it was very beautiful.
Thank you. Actually, my daughter chose those to take her through her journey on through her cancer journey, because she's been on a cancer journey for the last 2.5 years and doing really well. And really, besides doing a lot of holistic stuff, she's done a lot of prayer and meditation, and I've had her in prayer circles, and it's just been amazing. So yeah, she actually never liked chanting when she grew up with it in the house, and now her house is always full of chanting. But she chose her own, and she chose more of a melodic chants than I used to chant. Ah, hi. Lots of new people coming in here. So are there any questions on meditation? Karen?
Yeah, just say a little more about when you're breathing into the pineal gland. Just say a little bit more about what that's like, especially and when you do it, how are you breathing into it? Are you visualizing it? Are you?
No, I'm not. I'm sensing it. I'm getting the sensation from my third eye, and I'm doing it on the exhalation. And I go from the sensation. If I touch my third eye, I have a sensation there. But if I don't touch it, I can still have a sensation there as I'm exhaling. And then I go deeper back into the pineal gland is probably about 2 or 3 inches back. And I just feel that. And as I said, I've had some strange experiences in my brain. I mean, kind of nice experiences. And for me, meditation has always been a place for me to, and I know that this from other meditators, that it really brings you into who you really are, which is consciousness, and into that oneness, which we all are, and we're all experiencing that now with all this connection. I think one of the positive aspects of this whole thing is that we are connecting more, and we want connection, right? So it's happening. But that going into that place, whether you do it that way or just going into a deep meditation, will give you more joy in the world and make you calm, which I'll be talking more about with anxiety. Are there any other questions or comments?
Cherie, Cynthia, I usually experience meditation deeper in terms of breathing diaphragmatically, and I wonder how that relates to this whole heart and pineal connection. Do you find that you're able to go deeper into your pelvis in this meditation, or do you think it's mostly chest upward?
No, diaphragmatic breathing is what it's about, because when you take an inhalation into your chest, your diaphragm actually moves down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And so it is diaphragmatic breathing. You're breathing all the way down through your whole chest. Your diaphragm expands downward. And then on the exhalation, the diaphragm comes up, but the energy goes down. your feet. And you can choose to go down and follow the sensations, that sensate line I often talk about from, from the eyes to the pelvis, right? But recently on my exhalation, even though my energy is going down, because when you hold your breath out, the energy moves down.
Uh-huh.
Even though my sensate, my attention is up here, my energy is moving down on the exhalation. And I'll talk more about that when I get into the anxiety talk. But thanks, that's a good question, because I don't mean to disavow that this is not a diaphragmatic breathing. It is. Anyone else? How was it for you? Good, good. Okay. So I guess then I'll go on to my talk about anxiety. And I decided to do this because some of you know I'm a prayer chaplain in the, I need to put that up again. Yeah, back. I don't want to look at myself. I'm a member of the Unity Church, which is a New Thought church. And New Thought has been around forever. I mean, it's in the Bible. There are quotes in the Bible where Jesus is saying, if you believe, it is, And so many people have been calling me for prayers and are so anxious. And so many people I talk to are so anxious. And one of my ministers called me the other day. Actually, I called her because I was trying to get onto her Zoom and I didn't know how to do it. And she asked me how I was, and I said, I am blissful. And I really believe it's because I spend a lot of time meditating every day. I am going out and hiking every day, and I'm doing other things which I will talk about. Because anxiety and calmness are two ends of the same stick. In other words, fear and faith are two ends of the same stick. And when I say faith, I don't mean religion. It's whatever faith is really your inner knowing. Because when you come into faith, it's an inner knowing. Somehow in your body, you believe and feel, and it is a sensation that all is well. That's faith. It has nothing to do with religion because we're all different religions. So that's why I think I've been in such a blissful state, because there's not that much for me to do. I could do some chores around here, around my house, but I'm procrastinating about those. And I'm just really spending a lot of time in bliss. And I am lucky enough to have a wonderful backyard, which is total nature. There's big redwood trees and a creek, and across the creek is a pool and a garden and a tennis court, which no one uses, so it's so quiet. So I'm really aware that, as you know, everything is energy. Everything. Even this pandemic is energy. And of course, what people are thinking about it is energy. What people are talking about it is energy. So it behooves us to stay in calm. And so anxiety and calm, fear and faith, both of those have three components. And the three components are awareness, breath, and thought. So each of those three components, if you use it in a positive way, you will be calm, you will be in faith, you will be blissed out. If you use it in a negative way, which is happening so much in our culture right now, you will be in anxiety. And so I think of the three, awareness, breath, and thought. Awareness is probably the most important, because if you're not aware, you're not going to know how your breath is. You're not going to know how you're breathing. And you're not going to be aware of the thoughts, both yours and other people's, and especially the media, are affecting you. They are affecting us. I feel very blessed that I do not have TV. I have Prime, so I get to watch movies, wonderful BBC movies, and other things. I like documentaries a lot, but I don't have that fear coming at me hour after hour. And some people are sitting there hour after hour just taking it in and not realizing what it's doing to their mind. So being aware is the most important thing. Thoughts. And so often, even though I don't hear it on TV, I hear everything. I'm not saying put your head in the sand, but I hear everything I have to hear and meant to hear so that I can take precautions from whoever I'm talking to, because everybody else is listening too much. So thoughts, for a long time, we have known that thoughts create. And that's the thing about going back into the meditation, working with the pineal gland is the way we really create out of the unconscious. If you check out Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's on YouTube, and he's written several books. His latest is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And he's been studying the brain for years, and he's an amazing person. So yes, thought. And then we're back to breath. Maybe I want to talk a little bit more about thought. Be careful when you're talking to people, watch your thoughts. Be careful when people are talking to you, fear-mongering, because so many people are so caught up in it. And it's almost an addiction, because the thoughts get the brain activated, and the brain will always jump at something that's exciting. And we actually get addicted to some of those thoughts. So there's also a lot of anger in our culture right now, and fear and anger are also two ends of the same stick. You go back and forth. There's a story about two dogs that one got angry and started chasing the other one, and the other one runs, and then they run him into a corner, and he turns around and he gets angry, and they run back and forth. Yeah, fear and anger, back and forth. So thoughts will do that to us. So coming back to the breath, and I want to, Jason, if you can put on that piece of paper I gave you.
Yes, the image, yeah.
The image, yeah. And some of you who've done my professional workshops, that's not it, know this, because I talk a lot about breath in my professional workshops. It's not on yet, Jason.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah. And a lot of this comes out of Dr. Alexander Lowen's work. And so he's talking about when we inhale, we are actually charging our bodies with energy. When we exhale, we're discharging them. So when we hold the energy up on the inhalation, we're actually holding the energy up in our head. And people who hold their energy up in their head often get very heady. If you hold it on the discharge, on the exhale, the discharge continues. So the second line is what Lowen called the neurotic breath, because most people in our culture really breathe this way. It's inhale, hold, exhale, inhale, hold, exhale, inhale, hold. And what that does, as I said, is it keeps the energy up in the head. People will be then more thoughtful, which is great because our culture is very into thinking and creating out of thought. And but they can get caught in their thoughts. So the next one is the hyperventilative breath. That's inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And I've had several people come into me privately, and they have so much anxiety. And as I watch them breathe, they aren't going like that, which will land you in the hospital breathing into a paper bag, but they are in a hyperventilative breath sequence where they're breathing just like this: inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. very short breaths, and they are so anxious. So I try to get them to breathe this calming breath, which I talked about in the meditation, where you inhale, exhale, out, 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 and hold it out. Inhale, exhale, hold it out, 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 out. And when you can hold it out, look, I came across this when I was giving birth. Before I gave birth, I read Grantley Dick Reed's Childbirth Without Fear, because he claimed that holding the breath during labor created more fear in the body. And that has been proven over and over again by many different scientists. But I read that book. It was my Bible for 5 different births. And every day I would lie down and pretend I was in labor, and I would breathe that way. And of course, I created what happened to me in the hospital. When I went into labor, for some reason, there was a young girl standing over me saying, breathe deep. She followed my inhalation with the word breathe. She followed my exhalation with the word deep. And when I stopped breathing, because I had been practicing it for 8 or 9 months, she wouldn't say anything until she saw me breathe again. When I inhaled, she'd say, breathe, breathe. I'd exhale, she'd say, deep. And then I wouldn't breathe. And my labors were the only part of being pregnant that I enjoyed. I loved them. I had no pain, except for my daughter. She was lying on my spine, so I had pain with that, but I did not have the usual pain that happens in childbirth. So that breath, that calming breath, is so very, very, very important when especially in this time. And there are so many people that are suffering from their thoughts. And then there are people who are actually suffering from the virus and from other real problems with the economy. We're going to have we're in a lot of chaos and change. And I think it's real important to keep ourselves in a calm place. So can I get back to the gallery here? I'd like to hear comments or questions on that. Jean, do you have a question? Oh, I can't hear you. Jason, are they?
Jean, I'm looking.
Can we unmute ourselves?
Yes,
Yeah.
you can. Yes. Hi, Jean.
I don't understand. I really don't feel that I'm an optimist.
Who's
But
talking?
Mary Lynn.
Oh, Mary Lynn, I see you, but that's okay.
I turned my face back on, but anyway, I don't believe that I'm optimistic, but I, for some reason, have no fear. And I feel so blessed. It's just unbelievable. You know, I think if you worry and you're afraid, you're damaging your immune system.
Definitely.
And we better stay fear-proof, or we're going to be much more vulnerable to everything that's going on. Anyway.
Exactly. Thank you.
Glad you're here. Thank you.
Jean, are you here now?
Yeah, I've got my grandson here and I was trying to explain to him which breath, but I still, you breathe up and then you gradually let out the air as you breathe down, right?
Yeah, but when you hyperventilate, it goes like.
Yeah, I was trying to tell him the difference between hyperventilation and breathing in, gradually breathe, and then gradually let the air out.
It isn't about taking deep breaths. It's just about taking a normal breath, because studies again have shown that taking deep breaths is actually we don't get as much oxygen in our bodies as we do if we take just normal breaths, but stay at the exhalation. Because when that exhalation actually, as I said, the diaphragm relaxes on the exhalation, and the energy and the oxygen goes down into our organs, into our legs and feet.
Mhm.
And those of you who've been in my groups know that feet are the most important part of the body because it connects to the earth energetically. So we want the energy in our feet, not in our heads.
Yeah. I was just trying to get myself into it, really. So,
Great, great. Anyone else?
Sheree,
Yes.
do you
Yes.
hold it all after the inhalation, or does it gradually just convert to an exhalation?
No, I don't hold it all on the after the inhalation. I exhale immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I hold on at the end of the exhalation. That's the holding part. And as you practice this, you will be able to hold it out longer and longer. A lot of people who are so into the neurotic breath that I talked about, where they're holding at the top, they have a very hard time. It's kind of scary for them to hold it out at the end of the exhalation. But with practice, they can do that, just a second or two or three or four, and it becomes easier because the diaphragm relaxes more and more. It's really a practice, and it's worth it because, as Mary Lynn said, it keeps us healthy too. It's good for the immune system. As I said, my daughter has been practicing meditation. She's always did a little bit, but it wasn't a thing for her until she got cancer. And boy, she has used it in her recovery. And the more you practice it, the more you want to do it. Is that Sushila there? You're not. Some people are not on.
What do you mean, not on?
Do they have to, or can you unmute them, or do you have to unmute?
I could, but like, who are you asking for me to unmute?
I'm just trying to see. I don't know who that is. They're unmuted. They're muted.
Well, they can unmute themselves.
Yeah.
Hello.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay, it's Abby.
Oh, Abby.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody. Wow. So is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question or have?
you wanted to ask a question. Say something.
I was wondering, like
Say it loud.
if I hyperventilate, like if I'd be in the hospital, how long would it take to go through a recovery?
Well, I don't know, because I've never had to do that, because when I work with people and they hyperventilate, it can be a very disturbing kind of thing. But if I get them to just slow their breathing down, they don't have to go to the hospital. So if you ever find that you're hyperventilating, just slow your breathing down. That's a good question. What's your name?
Alex.
What? Alex. I know you, Alex. I've met you before, yes.
Hey, Sheree, by the way, the gallery view, if you go back to speaker view, when someone else is talking, you'll see them on the screen rather than yourself.
If I go back to speaker view?
Here, I'll just do this. I'm going to make it go to you. Hold on. I'm going to make it go back.
Yeah, so if somebody would talk.
So
Yeah,
now, when I talk, it's going to me. Can you see that?
yes.
Yeah, so yeah. And I see that there's someone else wanting to speak. Trying to find them. P-Pup. Are you able to speak?
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I had to. Sheree, it's Connie from Chicago. How are you?
Hi, Connie. I don't see you.
Well, yeah, I have my video. I'm so glad to hear your voice. Thank you for the meditation. Um, I use that breathing technique all the time and have shared it with many, many people. It's such an easy thing to do and to remember. Um, I just looking forward to hearing more about what you have to say, hearing more about the anxiety. I have a lot of friends who are very anxious with everything going on, and I have shared this with them. So I'm just really, really glad to kind of be back into your life.
Well, thank you, Connie. And you know, it's true. We can share this with people. They aren't all going to be open to it, interestingly enough. But as I say, a lot of people are actually addicted to the fear. You know, they don't realize that they are, but they keep watching and listening and researching and keeping their minds. And I'm not saying that at all that you should avoid it, because there are things we should know about this pandemic so that we can avoid it. And I think the media is really doing us a disservice. So when I talk to people about their fear, I always tell them these three things: awareness, breath, and thought. So when you're aware, you can start to watch how much you're thinking about it, how much you're seeing it on TV or hearing about it from other people. And I often tell the story about a friend of mine who wanted to give me a back rub, and he was a masseuse or masseur. And as he was rubbing my back, he was saying some negative things about my body, and I would just say, cross that, cross that, cross that. And finally he said, what are you saying? What are you doing? And I said, oh, I don't take those negative things into my body. And he didn't know what to say about that. And he said, oh, I wasn't aware that I was saying negative things. And I said, that's okay. But you see, so many people aren't aware, and they'll be talking to you, as this is what's happened to me. They'll be talking to me in fear mode. And I just say, you know, I don't think about those things. I don't let those thoughts in. I try to breathe and get out of fear. Now, a lot of people don't like that when but that's what happens for me. That's what I do.
Do you actually say those words out loud, or those words?
Yeah, what words? You mean when I
I
say I don't let the fear in? Yeah, I say that. I don't let the fear in. I keep my mind on positive things.
I bet you get a lot of comments from people because you sense what they're, and they might not even know it. And
they don't know it. They do not realize it. And I have one friend in particular who doesn't. It's such a habit that he doesn't like it, but I remind him.
Yeah, I try to avoid those people. There's a lot of negative speak going on, and we do our best to just make light and laugh as much as possible, and not really listen to the TV. Go out for walks.
Yes, nature is so amazing and so fulfilling, especially right now. My daughter and I are walking 6 feet apart in the hills, and the sky has never been so blue because there's no pollution from the cars. And the views up here are just amazing. I'm 30 minutes from the city, and when I get up in the hills, I can see across the bay there's another mountain over past Berkeley called Mount Diablo, and I can see the bay and Mount Diablo totally clear. It's just amazing.
Oh, it sounds beautiful.
Cherie?
Hi, it's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
I just wanted to emphasize, you taught me a lot of what I use as a therapist, and it is endlessly powerful, the focus on the feet and allowing the breath to come down to the feet. You can't feel your feet and anxious at the same time.
Exactly.
I find it to be incredibly, to myself and to my clients and anyone who does that, it's endlessly helpful.
Thank you, Karen. Jason and I are actually working on a bunch of videos that I've, of all the handouts that I give in my professional workshop that will be available to anyone once I would get them. And especially for people who do the professional workshops. So I'm giving little talks and showing all of those. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about feel your feet. My feet will hold me up, that handout, which is so important. So important.
We're making those videos for professional trainers, or we're going to make some for other people as well?
We're going to make them for the video, for the website, and then I don't know what we'll do. We're going to for sure hand them out to people who do the professional. But other people have asked me if they could pay for them. I don't know what we'll do with them. It'll depend on the economy and whatever. But we are, and actually this will be put on the web, right, Jason? We're going to put this whole section.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
So if you want to review any of this, it'll be on the website. Or if you have other people that want to hear it, you can send them to the website. So are there any other questions or comments?
Hi, Sheree. This is Karen at you in Chicago, actually at Karen Adler's house.
Hi.
How are you? So I really appreciate that. Beautiful. I resonated with your description of faith and fear, being on two opposite. I've always been a person that's always looking for the good in everything, or looking for the upside. And
wonderful.
I really
Pollyanna, just like me.
Yeah. And that's probably my strength and my weakness, right? But I know there's those who have talked about this pandemic as a cleanse and a real opportunity for change. And I think we all know at the end of this, there will be a lot of change.
Yes.
And, and looking at it as an opportunity, I've even told my kids, my kids are bummed. They can't go to work, whatnot. But I've said to them, probably never again in your lifetime are you going to be told to stay home and have the time to do whatever it is you want to do that you don't have the time to do. So my kids have been on edX. They're signing up for courses and doing things like that. I think, if you can look at the upside, most of what's, I think that, that's what I think keeps us going. When you're resisting the change and resisting happening, I think that's what causes the fear and the anxiety.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm hoping that people know how to unmute themselves. Anyone that's called in, I'm not quite sure how to tell them to do that, but.
Hi, Sherry, I have a question.
Yes. Who's speaking?
This is Alex from Chicago. We've met once before.
Oh, yes. Hi.
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 I have a question. so often in this meditative state, and you talked about how in this meditative state you connect to who you are, and I experience feelings of peace often, but then also then thoughts come, and some thoughts I want to hold on to because they seem like messages, action to take. And so I'm wondering if you could speak to, is that ever true, or that's always just distracting? And how do you know, like, when clarity is coming to move forward?
Well, I think that it does happen. That, in fact, the friends, you know, what's the other word for that religion? The friends. They often will meditate for an hour, and then whoever is moved to speak will speak. And that at times things that we really come out of our unconscious when we are. I was meditating 5 different hours of the day, and all of a sudden all these exercises started that I would do with these young teenagers in all-night groups. We did an all retreat, and I was Catholic at that time, and so I was all these exercises that I later, 2 years later, I learned were Gestalt exercises. And I was in a workshop, and the leader was doing this work, and I said, "What is this? I've done these." And he said, "Oh, it's called Gestalt therapy." And I said, "You mean I could learn it?" And he said, "Oh yeah, in fact, I'm in a training group right now, and I'm hardly ever there. You can take my place." So all my training was free. He gave me that 5-day workshop free. Then he gave me a place in this profession. So yes, very definitely, there are times when insights will come to us from meditation. And you have to be careful that your mind isn't just going off on you. Does that answer, Alex?
Yeah, I guess it's, so I guess the insight will feel very clear
when it's really something important, you'll know.
So I'm not sure if it's just my internet or if others are experiencing some choppiness here as well.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
Him too.
Freezing from time to time.
Yeah. Sure, are you still there?
Yes.
Well, I guess something, it's kind of like I'm wanting to share what I understand about and just get cremated, but like, isn't it is it useful to see it as kind of like a practice of catching yourself going off on a thought tangent and just kind of learning to kind of just catch yourself in the moment when you're doing something that's kind of like a autopilot type of, pattern?
Definitely. That's what it is. And it's a practice, and it's a work to catch yourself in negative thought. And I think Jason, I've been working for 3 or 4 years with my dear minister friend, Ken Daigle, who every time I'd say, "Oh, I can't afford it," he'd say, "Oh, Cherie, that's a great affirmation. The universe is listening." And he would catch me, and I would say, and I never say that anymore. I've changed thought to my finances have other places to go. Am I coming across, or am I jerky? Like
You're coming across. I think everyone might have trouble, but Yeah. Be doing stuff to some degree too. Maybe.
I'm going to put it back on so I see everybody again. So unless someone else has more to say, maybe it's time to round up. Where's everybody at?
If I could, this is David. If I could just say a couple of things real
Sure.
quick.
Sure.
All this has been wonderful. I'm enjoying it. One thing that I find useful is also taking both a historical perspective, is realizing if you look at the 14th century onward with the plague, we're duplicating so much of what happened then. That went on for almost 200 years, and within that, people survived. Amazingly creative, wonderful things took place in that time, as well as horrible things, as is true for our own age. And we keep moving forward. That people in the past have come through this, and I have a feeling we will too. And hopefully I'm seeing wonderful creative things going on, including this, more outreach. So it's a focus also on that positive, and to realize that this is not the first time, it won't be the last, and that there is this amazing resilience and rebirth that takes place through these things. And I come back to words from the end of the novel, The Count of Monte Cristo. Dumas writes that the faith, that the sum of human wisdom is contained in these two words, wait. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Yes. Yes to that.
Miss the second word. Wait and
Hope.
hope.
And hope. It's the end of The Count of Monte Cristo, the final words.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, this has been wonderful for me. I really, really appreciate you all hanging out with me here. And it's kind of a way for me to be with people, but I'm really enjoying it. And I love watching all your faces. So thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. I bless you. I hold you in love and light. Namaste.
Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cherie.
Thank you.
Much needed.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cherie. Love you.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie, for inspiring.
I don't know if they can hear us.
I can hear you.
Thank you,
Oh,
Jason.
some people are leaving. Thank you, Jason. Oh my God, Jason, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Can you say thank you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Allison. Glad you were here, even though you're not feeling well.
Oh, thank you, Cherie. Thank you.
Thanks, Cherie. From here it was.
I'm rested.